Okay, so back at the Sword Tackle Caravan again, right? So just obviously we just spoke about jig and how much easier it is. Well, hopefully it'll make it a lot easier for you to make your rigs up on the jig. Right, so obviously to make the rig up, we need the components to make the rig. So I was just going to quickly touch base on a couple of bits I've learned over the years on that front. So a few questions I've come across on my experience days is lines. Which lines do I use for a main line? Do I make loads of rigs up with different breaking strains? So I was going to answer a couple of questions on those. So the way I look at it is, and I know quite a few friends say exactly the same thing. Pick one sort of main line. So apart from my stick float rigs and probably some commercial rigs, that is all I use from all my main lines, the whole lot. That is it. So it obviously it's a Comic X5000. It's a 0.125 in diameter, which is 2.290 kilos, whatever that is. Must be what, £4-5, something like that. Well, there we go. MIDI one's £5.2. So yeah, that would do on the main line, and then obviously the up links are where I will change the line diameters. So just touching on the line diameters is another question. People are getting confused with the old school side of things with breaking strains and stuff. What I would say is try and get your head round and forget breaking strains. Literally just work on diameters. It's a lot more accurate. So obviously the bigger the diameter, the stronger it is. So exactly the same as what we were taught donkeys years ago with breaking strains. So we probably use, I don't know, a one pound hook link to a 2.5 pound main line. You can do exactly the same thing in diameters. So like I said, that's 0.125. On that I'll probably use sort of 100, or I'll probably more likely use 0.90, 0.08, 0.07, which is bringing my diameters down, which is effectively the same as what obviously with breaking strains. The smaller the breaking strain, the thinner the line. Obviously with modern lines being tend to be a lot stronger. So I would go around that. Forget all this with the breaking strains. It's with modern lines, it does make it really confusing. The only time slightly different is just be a bit more careful if you're using rod and line. The old-fashioned line, should we call it? Because the diameter, the bigger the diameter, the more stretch you've got. Obviously with rod and line, you're relying on the rod to bend in and give you that effectively that stretch in the line. Whereas obviously most of these sort of lines are geared around the pole, where obviously the stretch is in the elastic, which means you can fish surprisingly light, surprisingly fine lines and get away with it. Whereas what people used to say, 3 pound Maxima, it's just about unbreakable. Yeah, but it's the diameter. It's probably 3 or 4 times the diameter of 3 pound modern day equivalent. So that kind of, hopefully that explains a little bit on lines. So you just pick one main line that you think is suitable for doing what you're doing, and then you make all your rigs up onto that using the jig that we've talked about. Normally if I'm making stuff up, I've got some these brilliant Stoneflow shot pliers, one for putting shots on, and then for taking shot off. It just, yeah, probably one of those bits of kit that couldn't do without. Stock pliers or steel pliers, whatever you want to call them. Selection of shot. Most of my pole shot is all small stuff. One thing I'd say with shot, a lot of people say I struggle with small round shot. Struggling with small round shot, use slot shots or stills or whatever you want. There's a few different variations of them. I quite like the midi ones actually because they're nice and soft. But because they're not round and a square, you tend to find that they'll sit on your fingertips better. So it does make it a little bit easier for putting on. Then downside is they only go down to size 12, and I do use a few 13s. So yeah, if you're struggling with round shot to making your rigs up, use slot shot. Obviously selection of winders, pole anchors, all easy enough to buy. I get my sticky labels from the range, so I pick them up from the range, nice and cheap. And I can write all the details down. I can put, I mean, this is one that I've just took rig on. I put the name of the float on, the size of the float, how it's shotted, and this one had an Olivet on it. 4 number 12s and a few trim shot. Tells me the length from the diameter to the line. So that's that. What else have we got on here? Dos Piombo. If you don't know shot capacity of float, that's quite an invaluable little tool. So basically it is a neutral buoyancy aid. I was going to say, I've got no floats, we've got a box full here. Yeah, so basically Dos Piombos, sell these in the shop, stick float in, without bending it, and then drop that into double water. You can put your shot around it. Means you can shot the float up without actually putting it on a piece of line and clipping the shot onto the line and wasting shot if you get it wrong. So you can check the float, balance it all up, and then take it all out, tip it on, and then go on your jig and put the correct shot on. Obviously for doing that you need a float shotting tube. These I need to get some more actually. I had these in the shop, so handy piece of kit. I know Sensas do one, but I've got a feeling you need to remortgage your house to buy them. So yeah, basically, so that goes in there. Imagine that full of water, drops in, you can get your shot in right. So another handy piece of kit. Obviously you can put a shot on the line if you want and then drop it in. So that's that. Obviously, yeah, you'll probably find when you shot them up, if you shot them up this way, tap water and shall we say river water, lake water, whatever you want to call it, the density is different. So you might find that when you actually get to the bank, you've got to take shot off. Okay, so that's just something else to think about. So that, realistically speaking, is kind of all you need. Obviously, if you're doing rigs with Olivets, you need some Olivets to make rigs up. Another little handy thing that I've done a few years ago, find these, they're dotted around the shop, you can pick them up at the shop. Made some little shotting cards up, also a shot thing. So I think they're on my blog as well. I think you can find them on my blog. Obviously, another lot of questions that get asked is what's all this 4x12, 4x14s, and that it relates to stills or stops that you use on the continent. But basically, I've done a little chart on here. This one's for pole float rigs. I've done one for stick float rigs and for wagons as well. So these little floats we had earlier, so 4x12s. So 4x12 capacity is 0.21 of a gram. And then you can obviously refer to my other chart, which I've got. I've also put it on one of these, but you can make up then your 0.2 of a gram by. So number 12 shot is 0.02 of a gram. So you can obviously add in those together to make up your 0.2 of a gram. So then you can make your shotting capacities up. So you could effectively put one number. One number 4 is 0.2 of a gram. Not that you want to put one number 4 on. So effectively, yeah, that's the way you do it. So effectively number 12s, what would that be? 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, so you put 10 number 12s on, which will give you 0.2 of a gram. And then there's all manner of different ways of doing it. So you can find them in the shop, both of them. So there's a list there about and it gives you different shotting patterns, 2 different shotting patterns. It tells you obviously the stills, and it also gives you on the other page. So if you're going up above sort of 1.5 grams, we've got 2 gram, 2.5 gram, 3 gram, and it gives you what size olivette to use, capacity of shot afterwards. Obviously, it's not an exact science. Some floats you might shot them up to what. So those are 0.2 of a gram, might shot them up to well, it actually says 0.2 of a gram instead of 4/12. Might actually shot them up to 0.2 of a gram, go out there and it just buries under. It just sinks because it's overloaded, or it sticks halfway out the water because it needs more shot on. You may still find you'll have to trim up on the bank. That's it really. So in a nutshell, use all your main lines the same. Pick one main line that you find right for yourself, and then just change. Just make sure your uplinks are different. I'm sure there's people out there say, well, no, I ought to do some at different diameters, but all I'm trying to do is just make it easier. So you, instead of having loads and loads of different uplinks here that shall we say rigs made up with loads of different main lines, it's just can't see the point really. It's that last bit, that last, depending on how long you do your uplinks, 6 inch, 8 inch, whatever, that last bit is the critical bit with the fall. Sometimes it's better to use on some rigs, certainly flat float rigs, quite a sort of higher diameter main line, which will be stiffer, which will give you a better presentation and getting the rigging right. So yeah, hopefully that's sort of explained a couple of other bits. Okie dokie, don't forget, usual thing, find us, like us, share us, Facebook us, make a cup of tea, and I'll see you for the next instalment. Cheerio.